Hello everybody, ciao a tutti and welcome to Art with Ms.B. Today I'm going to teach you how to draw nice mountains so you can use these skills to improve your landscape. I'm gonna do two different types, one a little simpler, a little more basic and traditional mountains, and one, sorry, I was just noticing that my phone was going down. And one is, I would say, a little more complicated. Actually, the second one is inspired by local environment. I teach and I live in Utah. My students are in Northstar Academy, Bluffdale, and hi to all of you. And in Utah, we have beautiful mountains. They are though very different from the North Utah to the South Utah. So we're gonna do the first type, more inspired by the mountains that we have here in northern Utah, and the second type more inspired by the southern Utah, and so this beautiful nice canyon, and the colors will change. This practice for this practice, I will start with a pencil because in this case, we don't want to have a big, thick black outlines. And in previous practice, such as the flowers, the mushrooms, and the trees, I used the black Sharpie at the beginning because I wanted you to be able to follow the lines simply. So today you need to really pay attention. It is a little more complicated compared to previous practice, but we are improving and we are building skills. And remember that these are practices. If at the end your result is different than mine, it's just because you are learning. So keep trying, keep doing, take your notes, don't lose the paper so you can build your portfolio and you can always compare and contrast the practice and see your improvement. I'm gonna use markers, which it's a little tricky and difficult to color nicely the mountains with markers, giving implied texture and value, but I'm gonna do my best to show you how you can do it if you're gonna use markers. With pencil instead, you will take a longer time to color, but definitely it will be easier for you to kind of do all the implied texture and the work on values, okay? So pencil, white paper, markers, different type of grays, and some nice orange, browns, and everything that you might need. Remember that you can pause the video, prep the materials, and then play it again so you can keep practicing. I'm gonna switch the camera so we can start. Okay, I'm using my pencil and you're gonna use yours. We're gonna start from a traditional and simpler mountains. Now, one of the tendencies that to do the mountains like this, right? No, just forget about that. It's terrible. The mountains do not look like triangles. So we're gonna use a very broken and sketchy line, and the secret is for you to go slow. You can look what I do and then do the same. I'm gonna do a couple of peaks, a couple of mountains. So I'm gonna start with this diagonal, very sketchy line that comes all the way up and then goes down. So we still using the sort of a triangular shape, but it's just like way more natural. And we're gonna make the second peak over here a little like less tall, a little shorter, so it can give you also these three-dimensional ideas that this mountain is closer to us than the other. So we're gonna now create some nice texture. With the pencil, you're going to kind of follow a little bit the first lines that you trace, and with very sketchy and light lines, you can kind of create some nice texture. You can also kind of separate the tip from the bottom in case you want to have some lighter color and some snow like we do have here in Utah. I'm gonna show you again. You can separate that, and that, of course, do some nice texture that will follow the shape and the direction of the mountains. So nothing more than that. You see, sketchy lines go up and down and create some nice texture with the pencil. Super light. The secret is that we are not gonna press hard at all. I'm gonna probably erase these lines on the top so I can have some space for snow and play with lighter colors. Now we're gonna do the second type of mountains inspired by southern Utah, so more sort of a canyon. The type of lines is exactly the same, nice and sketchy. So we're gonna start from our bottom. We're gonna go nice up, up again. We're gonna kind of flat the top, like you would do on a canyon, right? And we're gonna go down. Now we're gonna keep building One could be sort of a smaller. And one can be back up, can go up, flat it down, go down, and there you go. Same with the pencil, and then we can maybe go over with an extra fine Sharpie. I'm gonna show you how. It's a little difficult, so you don't have to do it, but it's going to add a little extra texture and interest to your drawing. This time we are doing a little more vertical type of lines compared to this texture, because we're going to really recreate a nice, beautiful, rocky texture that canyon have. The secret is that do not do perfect and geometric lines, do them nice and squiggly and imperfect, and do not press hard. If you push hard on your pencil, with your pencil on the paper, it's gonna be 10 times harder for you to kind of control the rest. Look at that. They are really so beautiful and pretty. Now with some coloring, for this one I will use like light gray, dark gray. If you don't have many grays available, use the one that you have, and then you can overlap it a couple of times more. So I'm going to start, I would say, with a base with a nice light gray. That's gonna give me the base. I'm gonna leave the top for now white. I'm doing kind of sketchy gesture with the markers as well, like I did for the pencil. So actually those strokes will increase and improve and support the texture of the mountains, the rocky texture that I want to see. I'm gonna do the same for my second mountain. And this time, as we see, and as you notice, is a very like a different type of strokes that I'm using. Now I'm going to use a darker gray. Let's see if, and with the darker gray, I will go over not the whole mountain, but in some spot where I want to see darkness and shadow. So definitely between the two mountains, there will be some darkness, maybe on top of the texture that I created with a pencil, or the edge of one mountains, definitely. Very nice and sketchy. Look what I do, the same type of sketchy lines that I use with the pencil, I'm now using it with the marker. If you happen to overdo it and do it too much, remember that this is how we learn. This is a practice. So there, you know, we are meant to make mistakes. We are meant to don't like what we do at the end because we are learning. But definitely now you know the way that you can, even with markers, do more realistic type of mountains. They will definitely boost your landscape, the quality of your landscape. I'm gonna do the darkness also a little bit more over here to create a nice separation between the mountains on the top, like the front, and the one on the back. And you can go on and you can have it as dark and as light as you need. Maybe even here where I want to leave it white, I don't want to leave it pure white. I'm gonna have some tiny little spots. Okay, exactly like it would happen with the snow. Now let's pretend that we have some nice beautiful reflection from a sunset or something. So I'm using a super light pink, and once again extremely gently I will go over the light and the dark gray. No, and also I will color a little bit the white. So we're gonna start to spoil the white a little bit. Once again, doesn't have to be perfect. You can leave some gray gaps. It's just a beautiful way to improve the coloring and give us the beautiful reflection, right, that would happen with the sunlight during a sunset or a sunrise. Then I have a nice pinkish orangey color that I'm gonna add. Once again, beautiful, beautiful reflection. So look how pretty they are already. Pretend that the sunlight is reflecting on the mountains. Now, if you want to see some green in those mountains as well, you can add the green spots, and I would add them along the dark gray. But remember that is an optical illusion, so we're not going to technically draw any trees because it's really far away. What we're going to do is like a nice little scribble and dots here and there. Remember that when things are very far, we are not able to see all the single tiny little details, right? So when we draw, remember that we are creating a visual illusion of something that exists in the reality, and we are just drawing on the paper. So you create an optical illusion by strokes, marks, and pencil lines. You see? And you can go on, you can use a little different green, and I will stop over here. Very nice. Now, let's work on our canyon mountains, and we're gonna use a very different color palette, a very bold and very warm. We're gonna start with it nice. You have a nice brown, use the brown. And then if you wanna, like a light brown would be awesome, darker brown, the same. We're gonna go around the edges, right? With the same type of sketchy lines. We're gonna go on top of all the nice little lines that we use to create the texture. And remember, we are not pressing hard, but we are barely touching the paper. Touch and moving our hands a little like this, a little shaky hand. Voila. First, let's go on the second one. We follow the outline. We can add some more if we want. We keep going. And of course, coloring like this with markers will take a little time, right? Extra time, but it's definitely worth it, isn't it? Look how better and improved are these type of mountains, and look how beautiful is the implied texture. So now you know when you want to do mountains in the background of your landscape, you know better what to do and what to do not, and also how to create the illusion of trees, the sunset, right? It's just a matter of knowing the right movement and the right things to do. Now, without fear, we're gonna use a beautiful orange. We're gonna color the mountains, even going on top of the brown. Once again, I'm doing nice sketchy line. I'm not concerned if I leave a tiny, tiny, tiny gaps, as long as I'm not scribbling. We're gonna really load these mountains with orange. Second. They're tiny, tiny, not tiny white gaps, leave them. Nice and sketchy line going between the brown ones. We're gonna go down with color, shorter strokes. Now you have a landscape, and then you will bring the color down, and we will change the landscape, like the texture and the colors here. Now with a hot pink, a magenta, we're going to go over not everywhere, but exactly like we did here, to create some nice play, like some nice game of shadow and light. Definitely between the mountains, always have the shadow, cast a shadow. So it will help you to create three-dimensionality and create definitions between the mountains, because otherwise you risk that once you color, you have one single block, and this is not what we want. Also, in a realistic landscape, if you are outside, you will definitely observe the natural lights and the direction that this light come from. And then, but in this case, that we're just doing an imaginary, we're working with our imagination, right? We imagine that the lights would come maybe from here, so you have the darker side on your right. I'm doing exactly the same type of sketchy lines that we use with the pencil and then again with the brown. Okay, I just emphasizing the pink, this magenta more on one side. Now we go here, nice, you go along the edges of the mountain and you go down with this beautiful darker magenta that will create this beautiful, beautiful play between the light and the darkness. And we have the same peachy color that we use for the other mountains, and with that one we can even go on top just to brighten it up a little bit and eliminate all the gaps. And look how pretty, how beautiful is this. Don't be afraid to create darker spot, because the alternation of darkness and light, so the shadow will really make every single thing that you draw way better with a different type of depth, more realism. It's really just gorgeous. So don't be afraid to have this nice contrast. And here we are, friends. These are two different type of mountains that belong to different landscapes. So now you know, according to the landscape that you have to design, which one is the type that you're going to do it. Remember, pressure with the pencil, super light, sketchy line. I hope you had fun.